Dr. Joe Dispenza before I do my live later tonight. Late night with DAGR. I haven't picked which show I'm gonna watch. The eve before my 43rd birthday. It's gonna be an exciting day tomorrow. Sucks that most everything's closed, so it'll be interesting to see what I can do tomorrow. Hopefully at least be able to go out for breakfast.
Now, if you're a student of life, you'll begin to contemplate, well, it was that person that said that thing that I reacted, or I got this email, or things didn't go my way, and I started feeling angry or frustrated or fearful. The next time that happens, how can I evolve my experience? Now, you may have to search for some answers of the best model to build, or you may actually have a long contemplation and start to go, the next time that happens, I think I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, or I'm going to plan my behaviors. And the act of closing your eyes and rehearsing what you're going to do
still haven't got new tape, so let's see how long the flag can last tonight.
Brain to look like you already did it. Now the brain is no longer a record of the past. Now it's a map to the future. And if you keep installing that hardware, the hardware will become a software program, which means you'll just start acting like a happy person. Why? There's no magic there. You install the circuitry. So
Dr. Joe's the one that introduced me to meditation, man. This guy's amazing.
Right. It's more important than answering any email or any text.
I don't know. I think he's the biggest influence on me since JD and Lap Dancer, obviously.
If you can begin to just think about how you're going to do it differently, that's the building process neurologically already. So now you have to get conscious in order to
it's almost been
some time. That means you got to shut your
a week
off.
or more since I started doing meditation.
From everything out there and begin to practice. And so by experience then
affirmations and
you start noticing, here it comes,
all sorts of different cool stuff.
The frustration, here comes the fear. And now we've given people the tools to be able to self-regulate, to create brain and heart coherence. And so you see people say, excuse me 1 minute, I just need a minute. They take some breaths, they get back in, they connect to the energy of their future. This is incidental compared to where they're going. So they don't fall from grace. They don't allow their energy to drop. And so, yeah, in the beginning, it takes a lot because it takes a lot of energy and awareness to stay conscious and not go unconscious. But if you're persistent and you're determined and you're sincere, you begin to figure it out. You begin to say, I am not going to give my power away to that person or that circumstance when I can use it to heal or to create a new future.
I don't think I have any dessert left.
Won't excuse themselves.
Yeah, you know, most of my desserts. Well, I might have some chocolate bars over there still.
Well, that's the time to get back on the horse. Yeah. Because it's all of those times that we self-correct. Those are the most valuable moments.
Even Tony Robbins on a video I watched today talked about fasting.
Transcendental experiences where we say, got lit up, they connected, and
he gave
into very, very high coherent states. And
his last bit of money to this kid at a restaurant, an all-you-can-eat restaurant, so he could take his mother out for dinner. He says, that's okay, I could fast first. Whenever his next paycheck was going to be, I think it's like 10, 15 days or whatever. And then he got home and had a check from his buddy that owed him money and saying sorry. I wish my buddies did that owed me money. There's a lot of them out there. Well,
they don't look at the good meditations or the things that went well. They know that it was those moments that got them to this moment. And I think then that's when they begin to understand that all of the hard work, all the effort, and who we become makes us, no one can take that away from us.
That's right.
Once we arrive at that level and we experience whatever the dream is, or whatever we create, the next thing is do it until you fully enjoy it, and then when it gets boring or predictable, let's go again. Do something else. Yeah, I think that's evolution.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings.
Pull out. It's always a good idea, folks. Especially the dudes.
The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your
I never did
key
that.
takeaways are and your specific
I told them I was going to, but I never did.
If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link.
Gotta be a lot more careful now
Go
with
click
all
on it
the
and start
scammers
building the
out there.
momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, invest in your future.
Meditation, the actual translation of the word meditation, means to become familiar with. So the first thing you have to do is you have to become conscious of your unconscious thoughts.
Right.
You have to notice your automatic habits and behaviors. You have to become aware of your emotions that keep you anchored to the past.
Yep.
And if you can become so conscious of the
Let those
unconscious
go.
states of mind and body that they would never slip by your conscious awareness again, you're becoming familiar with the old self so you don't return. Then if you begin to think about new ways of being defined by a vision, plan your behaviors, review them in your mind. Now, if you keep doing that over and over again, nerve cells that fire together wire together. You begin to become familiar with a new state of mind. At the same time, if you can emotionally cultivate your inspiration, your joy, your enthusiasm ahead of the experience, by repeating that over and over again, cultivating that state, it's going to begin to become familiar to you. So then the process of change then requires unlearning and relearning, breaking the habit of the old self, reinventing a new self, pruning synaptic connections, as we say in neuroscience, and sprouting new connections, unmemorizing emotions that are stored in the body. Then here's the key, reconditioning the body to a new mind and to a new emotion. It's literally moving from your past to your future. It's losing your mind and creating a new one. And so then when you begin to understand that in that process, it's going to feel a little bit unfamiliar, uncomfortable. And if you can relax into that, instead of going back to the past, continuously invest in your future, sooner or later, it'll begin to become easier and easier and easier. And all of a sudden, when you least expect it, something amazing is going to happen in your life. And when that event begins to occur, you're going to pay attention to what you did inside
Never heard of her
now
before.
to produce the effect outside of you. And that's called human empowerment. And there isn't a person in the world that's excluded from this equation.
Rule number 6, develop beliefs that serve you.
If people are really believing that their astrological sign determines their destiny, then they will look for, based on their perception, the correlations that are equal to their belief system.
You heard the placebo, making your mind matter. That's an awesome title. Man, I gotta read his books.
Me creating the life that I want to have, right? So many people will though.
Yeah, listen to Tony Robinson. He read 700 books in 7 years. No wonder he's so freaking smart. I don't need to read one of his books. One of his newer books.
On the clock and 4:18 on the clock, but you're looking for 11:11. Well, and that's your reality because that's where your attention is, right? So I don't subscribe to that, but I respect that because that person is going to keep that belief until it no longer serves them. And they're either going to evolve their belief or they're not. And if they don't, so be it. But if they do, they're going to realize sooner or later it's not working for them. I have certain beliefs right now.
I'm going from the other side.
Honestly, I'm
Sorry
questioning.
about the thumb there, folks. Thumbs up.
But in order for me to change those beliefs, I'm going to have to come out of my resting state, have to step out into the unknown.
Develop beliefs that serve you.
In a very different way. Now, to build on that model, then it's going to require 1 foot in the practical world and 1 foot in the mysterious world. Because I can't control all the events that happen in my life, but I can certainly make choices that are going to bring me closer to those experiences. Now, I also know from experience that when I'm living by the hormones of stress and I'm living in survival, that you and I and everybody else is always going to try to control the outcome, to try to force the outcome, to try to get in the way, try to analyze when it's going to happen and how it's going to happen. Now, when that occurs, we're really bad. We're competitive, we're manipulative, we'll hold on to things, we're deceitful, we're greedy. That's what those chemicals do. So we're always trying to control and force the outcome because, in a sense, we feel separate from something greater. We feel like we're matter trying to change matter. We feel like we're vibrating at the same speed as everything else, and so we have to get what we want, means we have to go and get it. And so then people start mixing spiritual principles with that phenomenon, right? So then That's not what I'm talking about, because I'm talking about if you're able to understand that when you're living by the hormones of stress, that your senses are heightened and that you're a materialist trying to define reality. If you can't see it, feel it, taste it, smell it, it doesn't exist, and you're getting ready for something bad to happen, and be prepared to protect yourself, and that's how most people live.
Yeah.
Then everybody's doing that. Everybody's matter trying to change matter, and sooner or later bump into each other, and there's going to be sparks, right? So then, is it possible then that instead of being defined as a body, living in an environment in a particular time, that if you were to close your eyes and disconnect from the external environment, to sit your body down and to transcend time and to become nobody, you have the biological machinery to do this, to become no one. You're not a face, you're not a man, you're not a documentary filmmaker, you're not your past, you're not your future, you're not a husband, you're not your body, you're not your emotions, you're not your habits, you're not the predictable future, the future past, you're pure consciousness. Now, if you are going to heal your body by thought alone, if you are going to create some event in your external environment by thought alone, and if you are going to transcend time by thought alone, then you have to become thought alone. And so when people start to really realize that they can change the neurocircuitry in their brain by thought alone, send you emotional signals that begin to select and upregulate new genes and downregulate other genes, and it may take knocking on that door for extended periods of time till finally the gene is programmed. Because it took them 10 years to program the gene for the disease. It may take them a few years to reprogram the gene. Now we're talking about pragmatist. We're talking about someone who's applying some principles. And so then when that occurs, and the energy that was sitting in these hormonal centers of survival, anger and fear and guilt and shame, energy kind of moves up a little bit. We've measured this. Heart starts to open, gets more coherent. The field around the body begins to grow. We've measured that. The person feels more like energy, less like matter. They feel like more like wave, less like particle. They're not afraid of the unknown. Let's go ahead and answer that really quick. I'm sorry, he's in like the greatest part right now.
Oh, jeez.
Hopefully you can lose your train of thought. So, they're not afraid of the unknown. They're craving and they're trusting in the unknown. And that kind of expanded energy is now they're no longer enslaved emotionally to the past. They're no longer an identity that's connected to a disease. They're no longer a body who's addicted to an emotion. They're no longer trying to forecast the future based on the past. They're no longer a man, they're no longer a woman, they're no longer a nurse, they're no longer black, they're no longer white, they're no longer anything. They are completely poised in the present moment. And that present moment produces a liberation of energy because the body is no longer held to the chains of the past. And that liberation of energy then begins to produce a biological transformation in the brain and the body. We've seen it. The brain gets highly coherent, gets super organized. The person feels whole. We've measured that. Their heart moves into a state of joy and love and gratitude. We measured that. The field around their bodies and hands. We measured that. And the person could no longer cares about the future or the past. They're happy in the present moment. They no longer want anything because they're whole. And if you're whole, it's impossible to want. And that's the moment it happens. And so kind of this paradox that begins to occur. So why am I explaining it like this? Because I want to answer the ultimate question of what you're asking. Is that there's an intelligence that's giving us life. It's keeping my heart beating and digesting my food and organizing trillions of functions per second in every cell of my body. I'm not doing that. I'm having a conversation with you as a free-willed, subjective consciousness. But there's an intelligence within me that's always endorsing who I'm being. And that intelligence is a giver of life. So to demystify it then, And this is where I part from the spiritual community. Because when your will matches its will, when your mind matches its mind, when your love for life matches its love for life, it begins to work in ways that are mysterious. Now, why is that important? Because the mysterious is the unknown, and the unknown is unexpected, and the unexpected should bring a surprise, and that surprise should be outside of my current beliefs. If it's happening, how could I expect the supernatural to happen if I'm expecting it to happen? It's impossible. But if I'm in the unknown and I'm open to possibility, then I should be able to create an unknown experience that I can't predict the emotion or the future event of how it's going to occur or when it's going to occur. It's not my job. And the side effect of that is this mysterious surprise that changes my biology from the new experience and then causes me to change my beliefs. And I've had enough of my own mystical moments. In the midst of that mystical experience, I have said in the midst of it, I have this all wrong. I have said it right in the midst of the experience. I am doing this so wrong because I was so programmed into this box of belief. But the only way the unexpected could happen is giving up expectation, which means you have to surrender that belief. How it's going to happen or when it's going to happen, I can't predict that. So then, that same intelligence that's giving me life according to the quantum model of reality is the same intelligence that's creating supernovas and causing flowers to bloom. It's within us and all around us. It's a very wave of quantum physics. I can't control that. I can't expect how the particle is going to appear or when it's going to appear, but it's not my job. My job is to move into different states of being and be open to the mystery of how it's going to happen. So, if I said to you today, Ben, that I have all the answers to everything, I would certainly be limiting this conversation. But I am open to the mystery of life. And the mystery of life then means that if we're asking certain questions, and we even speculate that it's possible, and someone has to step out of their present beliefs to see if it is. And so I'm not interested in the natural. I'm not interested in the normal. I'm interested in the supernatural, the supernormal. And I believe, from my present state of ignorance, of course, if we're going to use the word belief, that you don't have to be a Buddhist monk. You don't have to be a nun with 40 years of devotion.
Reverso
nun. You don't have to
nun.
be a religious scholar. You don't have to be a researcher. You don't have to have a PhD to do this. The common people around the world can do the uncommon. And if they're given the right understanding
Yeah.
and the environment is set up where they can begin the application of that. And I have looked at over 1,000 brain scans of people in meditation. And I can tell you that you and I are at our absolute best when we get beyond our analytical mind. When we get beyond ourselves.
So
That's
true.
the moment that the brain gets so organized and so coherent. Front of the brain's talking to the back of the brain, the right side of the brain's talking to the left side of the brain. There's this synchronization, this psychic union going on, a flow. And the person has tears of joy rolling down their face. That gestalt moment, that transcendent event for the person is completely subjective. But my interest is measured.
I had that the other day when I did a meditation. I wasn't expecting it. That was crazy.
Brains that are 26,000 to 40,000 times normal during that experience. Now,
It was a meditation with
they can't
affirmations.
make their brain do that. It's happening to them. And the inner event that's happening to them is more real than any past event. And that's the moment I know their belief is changing.
Rule number 7, go all in.
Go all in.
Teach your body emotionally
I love going
what
all
the future
in.
reality that you want to live in feels like before it happens. Now, this is very difficult if you've been conditioned into believing something in your outer world has to change to take away the emptiness or the lack, to make you feel differently. This is saying, actually feel the emotion before it happens, and don't wait for the experience to occur. Teach your body what the feeling will be before it occurs, if the environment signals the gene, and the end product of an experience in the environment is an emotion, you're signaling the gene ahead of the environment, and genes make proteins, and proteins are responsible for the structure and function of your body, and the expression of proteins is the expression of life. So teach the body emotionally to self-regulate, to believe it's living in an environment that's flourishing, that's wonderful. Keep practicing it, and it'll become familiar to you. And the process then creates a new identity, and it's not difficult once you understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. And the more you combine all those different branches of science and make it in a simple way to understand, if people understand the what and the why, the how gets easier, because you can assign meaning to what you're doing and it becomes instrumental. So get a group of people, 1,000 people, 1,500 people, 2,000 people into a room, teach them that information, whether they're coming for wealth, their health, a relationship, a new career, a mystical experience. Get them all together and teach them and measure what can take place.
Mark Hyman, I wonder if he's related to Zachariah Hyman.
More than 75% of the people that go all in and retreat from their lives and remove the same stimulation from their environment and not be in the same conditions, and teach them that information and give them numerous opportunities to apply it and numerous opportunities to get beyond themselves. All you need is that first person that stands on the stage and says, hey, I walked in here with Parkinson's disease. I have no idea what happened, but I'm not trembling anymore. And boy, that last thing, just something clicked for me. And a person in the audience was watching the 4-minute mile right in front of them and going, wow, that guy looks like he's not a vegan. He doesn't look like he's particularly in shape, but his Parkinson's went away. And wow, I mean, if he can do it, I can do it. And somebody else changes their belief. And now that's a footprint in consciousness. Get enough people doing that. By the end of the week, you're going to see things. We've seen blind people seeing, deaf people hearing, not once, not twice. We've seen people with strokes for 10 years lift their arms up again. We've seen people step out of wheelchairs, people on crutches drop their crutches. I mean, you see the body literally recalibrates to a new mind. And they're not intentionally trying to do anything. They're just becoming somebody else. But the process of overcoming is the process of becoming. And if you teach people that formula and you get just 1 or 2 people doing it, it's just going to become an infection, and it's going to, wellness is going to spread just like disease. Number 8, have a vision.
That's
I think it's
insane.
a time in history where it's not enough to know. It's a
Mace
time in history
again.
to know how.
Or
And
Lilu.
if you think about it,
Lilu.
most people live their life in a habit. They think the same thoughts, they perform the same actions, they live by the same emotions, but they secretly expect their life to change. But how you think, how you act, and how you feel is called your personality. And your personality creates your personal reality. That's it. So
Favorite
if you
quote.
think
I love
60,
that.
70,000 thoughts in one day, and 90% of those thoughts are the same thoughts as the day before, the same thoughts always lead to the same choices. The same choices always lead to the same behaviors. The same behaviors create the same
Deja vu.
experiences, and the same experiences produce the same emotions. And those same emotions then drive your very same thoughts. And so you get caught in this kind of biological, neurological, and quantum fixated pattern. So then the hardest part about change, really, in creating the life that you want, and being defined by a vision of the future instead of a memory of the past, is not making the same choices you did the day before. And the moment you do that, you step into the unknown. Now, you and I have been conditioned and hypnotized into believing that the unknown is some scary place. But when you begin to realize the unknown is the perfect place to create from, that void of unpredictability, that uncertainty, that unfamiliarity, is really the quantum place of uncertainty where all manifestations come from. So when you and I become comfortable living in that unknown place, I think then that we begin to manifest the things we want in our lives. So for me personally, I want to execute and be defined by a vision of the future instead of the memories of the past. So most people's brains are organized to reflect everything they know in their life. Their brain is a record of the past. And if you feel the same way every single day, and feelings and emotions are the end product of past experiences, it means, number one, nothing new is happening in your life, and number two, those emotions are keeping you anchored to the past. If thoughts are the language of the brain, and feelings are the language of the body, and how you think and how you feel creates a state of being, most people are literally, biologically, neurologically, chemically, genetically, and even quantum-wise connected to a past. So then the question is, the fundamental question is, can you believe in a future that you can't see or experience with your senses yet, but you've thought about enough times in your mind that your brain is literally changed to look like the experience has already occurred? Now, the latest research in neuroscience and neuroplasticity tells us we can change our brain to look like the event has already occurred. And can we begin to emotionally embrace a future reality that's a potential in the quantum field and begin to emotionally embrace it to such a degree that we fall in love with that future reality, that our body, as our unconscious mind, begins to believe it's living in that future reality in the present moment, and we're signaling new genes in new ways to change our body to look like the experience has already occurred in preparation for the event. Now, think about this.
So making our inner world more real than the outer world.
Right, but not only that, you have to then understand that when you truly do this properly, you're not waiting for your healing to feel whole. You're not waiting for your success to feel empowered. You're not waiting for your wealth to feel abundant. You're not waiting for your new relationship to feel love.
Yeah.
You're not waiting for the mystical moment to feel awe. That's the old model of reality, of cause and effect, waiting for something outside of you to change how you feel inside of you. And when you feel better inside, when you pay attention to whoever, whatever caused that, that's cause and effect. And when you begin to make the correlation between what changed you from outside and inside, you create an associative memory. The quantum model of reality begins to say then you have to teach your body emotionally how that future is going to feel like before it's made manifest. In other words, you have to feel awe in order for the mystical moment to happen. You have to feel abundance before your wealth can occur. You have to feel in love with life before your new relationship happens. And so we're not defining reality by our senses because we're not waiting then for anything outside of us to change how we feel inside of us. So if there's physical evidence in your brain and body to look like the experience has already occurred, physical evidence, because the epigenetic model of reality says you can change your body by thought alone, and neuroplasticity says you can change your brain by thought alone. So if there's physical evidence to look like the experience has already occurred, well, relax, because the experience is going to find you. And it's going to come in a way that you least expect.
Rule number 9, eliminate addictions.
The survival emotions, the emotions that are derived from the hormones of stress, are very addictive. Anger is addictive. Fear is addictive. Sadness is addictive. Resentment is addictive. Competition is addictive. Frustration is addictive. All of those emotions that are derived from the hormones of stress give the brain and body a rush of energy. So if an addiction is something you can't stop, and you happen to have a friend or a family member who's walking around suffering every single day of their life, and you say to them, why don't you stop? Or you're in the middle of an angry experience, and I say to you, Michael, why don't you just stop being angry?
Yeah.
You can't stop. You can't stop that. Then on
No.
some level, you're addicted, because an addiction is something you can't stop. So when people start to understand, oh my God, I'm addicted to my own frustration, I'm addicted to my own suffering, I'm addicted to my own guilt, all of a sudden they start becoming conscious of what they're doing to their brain and body. Show them how those very chemicals downregulate genes to create disease, and then get them beyond that by doing meditation. That's the moment then all of a sudden they begin to be greater than their biology. And we've measured this thousands of times in people, and it's without a doubt, I can say this from every single cell in my being, that a person is at their absolute best when they get beyond themselves. That's the bottom line. 70% of the time, people are living by the hormones of stress, whether they know it or not. They're always anticipating the future based on the past. They're always having their attention on objects and people and things and places in the world, because that's where the danger is. The chemicals are jacking up their body, so their attention is on their body. So they think, based on their own experience, that they're their body, but they're not. They believe that they're their identity that's connected to relationships with people and things and places in their life, but they're not. Then when people start to live on autopilot and they get out of bed the same way, and they brush their teeth with the same hand, and they do all the same things every single day, and they've been doing that for 20 or 30 years, for the most part then, their body's on autopilot. It's in a predictable future based on what it's done in the past. So very few people are in the present moment. So then they're locked into a line of time, a linear line of time, where their future and their past seem to be exactly the same. So no, not a lot of people are present or in the present moment. And if you're not in the present moment, I assert that you're running some type of program, which means you're not present. The body's already programmed to be in the future and the past. So then, in the elegant moment of meditation, and we can predict this now on a brain scan, there comes a moment where a person forgets about their body. They forget they're so involved in their inner world that there is no body. They forget that they are an identity. They're not paying attention to the people they know and the places they go and the things they have to do or the things they own. They become no one. They become no thing. They go to nowhere, and they forget about their appointments in their past, and they become no time. And that is the moment they become pure consciousness. That is the moment that they begin to disconnect from their biology. And who you are, to answer that question, is a consciousness that's manipulating the brain and body to produce different levels of mind. And only when you are pure consciousness can you begin to change your body. Only when you are beyond your body can you heal your body. The body can't heal the body. You have to get beyond your body to heal your body. In order for you to create some new experience in your life, you got to get beyond the problems in your life. In order for you to create some new future event in some future time, you got to get beyond predictable linear time. And so if you're going to heal your body by thought alone, if you're going to create some experience in your life by thought alone, if you are going to create some new event in your future by thought alone, then you have to become thought alone. And that is the moment when you become pure consciousness, where you are nobody, no one, no thing, nowhere, and no time. That is the moment that you're no longer constrained by those laws. That is the moment your consciousness, free-willed, subjective human consciousness, merges with the quantum field, the objective universal consciousness. And when they come together and you come back to awareness, you take a piece of it with you and you become more like it. You become more willful. It has an amazing will. You become more mindful. It has an infinite mind. You become more conscious. It has a great consciousness. You become more loving. It's a lover of life. You become more giving. It's a giver of life. Its nature becomes your nature. And so teaching people how to do that is the art. So then when you understand that we now know that there's certain ways to do that help people get there faster.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is live a stress-free life.
Ooh, stress-free life.
Scientific model.
Words to live by. Anyways, I gotta get ready for late night with DAGR. Figure out what JD show I'm gonna listen to. Gotta figure that out. Get my flag ready. Get into my Canadistan gear. We'll see you on the next one, guys. See you later, cousins. Take care.
Stress is when your body's not that balanced.
Ooh, yeah.
The stress response is what your body innately does to return itself back.